Wow. Wow, I must say. But right now we have the CEO, Teach for Nigeria, Folawe Omikunle. Omikunle.
Omikunle.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you. Did I get the surname correctly?
Folawe Omikunle.
Folawe Omikunle. I love Yoruba names.
Right.
Really
but you find it
beautiful.
difficult?
No. I'm getting into the groove.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's really nice. But nice to have you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this is when we hear the story of the fact that, okay, you're doing everything to reach and penetrate into areas where children are hard to reach, it's really cheering news for a lot of people who have always said the number of out-of-school children is hitting about 13 to 14 million in Nigeria and so on. Talk to us about this. How did you come up with this?
So first, what drives Teach for Nigeria is one of the things that you've mentioned. And in 2014, a group of people came together at the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, where the theme of the summit was looking at the crisis in education. I think one of the things they recognized was that, yes, we had this out-of-school issue. We also had teacher quality issue. We had infrastructure issue. We had teacher motivation issues. We had, I mean, you look at the system and the country, and for you to go and study an education program, all you need to score is 100 or 120 over 400 in JAM to actually go in and be a teacher. But I think one of the things that they understood was that to really transform this, we needed leadership. If you have the right leaders in place, if you had the right thinking people who understood what the issues were and were preferring solutions to it, things would change. And so it was that core that drove starting up Teach for Nigeria. And the idea for us is for Nigeria to fully reach its potential, every child, every citizen in Nigeria would need to be at their fullest potential. And for us to get to that, 13.2 million children cannot be out of school. 60% of our children who are leaving primary 6 cannot not know how to read and write, whether in English language or in their own language. They cannot be at kindergarten level at primary 6. And so understanding all of that reality is what drove to say, to really solve this, we don't have one single solution to it. There's no quick fix. The situation is so dire and is so complex and so systemic that for us to really address it, we need several people working towards it collectively and consistently, right? But we see a situation in our education system where we're constantly looking for short-term solutions. To really fix this, we don't have any, we have to invest in the long term. You can't invest in education today and then tomorrow you see the result. It doesn't work that way. So we've also not really seen anyone who is doing anything deliberately to invest in that long haul and for that long game. And that's what we're doing at Teach for Nigeria. We believe that to really transform the educational system, we need as many people who understand what the challenges are. So we do that through our 2-year program, where you, first of all, and why we do that is because we also understand that there's a short-term issue here, but there's also a long-term issue. The short-term issue is that the children who are in school are not learning at all. And the ones who are most hit are the children who are in underserved communities. So what we're doing and what you need to do in that situation is you see the study that says that at the school system level, the biggest difference maker is the teacher. So why not get outstanding, bright minds to go into the schools and teach first for 2 years, right? But whilst they're teaching for 2 years, why don't we train and develop them in such a way that by the time they're leaving with a sense of agency, a sense of urgency, and a sense of responsibility to the wider issues and the much more fundamental issues. And I'll bring it down to just explain some situations here. So our first cohort started in 2017. And there were this group, the name Bosse, Day, and Dean were one of the fellows who were on the program. And they identified that, okay, girls were not coming to school. We have a situation with like girl child education. But then they realized that actually girls were staying out of school because whenever they're on the menstrual cycle, they would miss out on school because they didn't have access to sanitary pads and things like that. But then they also recognized that because the school didn't have the sanitary facilities, they could. So it's like, how do we begin to address this different issues?
So these were some of the, wow. Folawe, it's like you've taken me to the class or taking us to the class and then the lectures will not end. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for what you do. And this discussion is going to continue because we need to understand what more can be done as far as this is concerned. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
All right, with us in the studio is the CEO, Teach for Nigeria, Folawe Omikunle. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you
Great
for
to have
joining
you.
us
Thank you for
on
having
TVC
me.
Breakfast. But some would say that 800,000 children, that is a projection that you have, looking at the challenges we are faced with, that might just be ambitious to deal with or handle.
So when we say 800,000 children, we're not saying this as just a way of reaching the children directly through the participants who come on our program. But one of the things that we say as an organization is that this effort and this movement that we're embarking on will require several people doing different things across different systems and sector. And so the 2-year paid fellowship starts with these individuals who come and teach for 2 years, and they're directly impacting children in the classroom. But post the 2 years, they go into this alumnihood. Like, it's almost like that's where the real work then starts, where you find some of them who are now starting social enterprises, non-profit organizations. And I'll give you an example. Ogun State is one of the states where we started in, and right now there's a program called Mentor an African Child Initiative, where they've set up an ICT lab that is training children in low-income communities across Ogun State on digital skills. They're teaching robotics, coding, and what have you. And so when you think in terms of that 800,000, the way that we're going to get to it is by the participants, the alumni who are coming through our program, the existing teachers in the system who are saying, actually, I could do something differently. I could teach differently. I could get, my own teacher colleagues to teach better. So it's like, how do we cascade that urgency? How do we cascade that commitment across communities, across government, across just the schools, for everyone to play a role and for everyone to act?
All right. Now, before we go ahead, now there is a lot of concern as to the quality of teachers. You can't give what you don't have. That's what they said.
Yes.
Now, how do you recruit that number of teachers that will drive this dream?
So one of the things that we say is that you don't have to have an education background to join the Teach for Nigeria Fellowship.
Wow.
In fact, we don't want only teachers, or we don't want only education background and graduates with education background to come into this. And that the reality of that is that to really solve this issue, there's an ecosystem that the education thrives in. And that ecosystem is not just in education. And so for us, we want people from diverse academic backgrounds. And also, when we put it out there that you have to have a minimum of 2-1, it's almost like, oh, but I scored a 3rd class and I can teach, because that is what the society has that's what we're used to. But we're saying we want the brightest individuals. We want the outstanding individuals. We want the individuals who the banks are competing for, who the consulting firms are competing for, to go and be the ones to teach. In countries that we've seen education thrive, in countries that we see education system as the top performing, they attract their best and brightest to go into teaching. We want the same thing, and that's what we're putting out there.
But one of the requirements for schools in Nigeria is that you must have an education background. Are you running this aside to the normal schools, or how is this going to work?
Which is where partnership comes in. Like, we're not doing this in silo. We're doing this in partnership with government and institutions. And so to come onto our program, even if you've come from, maybe the law background or an engineering background, what we have done is we've gone into partnership with universities to ensure that our participants are able to secure a teaching certification during their 2-year of the fellowship. Okay. So it's one of the requirements that we also ensure that we provide the training, we provide the support. So it's not just about bringing these individuals to come and teach, but we ensure that they're prepared to be successful teachers. So they go through a pre-service training, and there's ongoing training, and there's coaching, and there's mentoring, and we've seen that is what helps them to be successful teachers in the classroom.
All right. Let's leave it here now. Folawe Omikunle, thank you for speaking with us. With us in the studio is the CEO, Teach for Nigeria, Folawe Omikunle. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to have you
joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You have been doing this for 2 years now. Talk to us about first challenges and impact so far.
Some of the challenges that we've seen on the ground, is the reality of the environment that we work in. So we have schools that are in really bad shape in terms of infrastructure. We also have an issue around even funding. The people who are interested in investing in teacher training, for example, or in training graduates who are then placed to teach as full-time teachers. And so another one is navigating the government relationships, the stakeholders, mapping, and just identifying the people that we need to work with to ensure that our program is successful. So I'd say those three things are the biggest challenge. One of the things that I thought was going to be a challenge in the 3 years of doing our work was finding the people. Because the Nigerian youth are perceived to be individuals who want immediate gratification. And so you're not going to find brilliant minds and outstanding graduates who are going to give up 2 years of their lives to teach as full-time teachers in those sort of environments. But I found that that's not the case. Yes, we have huge unemployment issues, but one of the things that I've also found is that we have Nigerians who are tired of the narrative, who are ready to contribute towards this challenge and make a difference. So in our first year when we started, we're looking to start with 60 participants, and we had over 12,000 applications.
Wow.
Yes. And altogether, in our 3 years of doing this work, we've received over 98,000 applications. Not to say that there are people who have no business applying to join our program, but one thing I'm learning is that people have been looking for a platform where they could actually give back, where they could do something beyond themselves, where they could contribute to making a difference. And so if we found a way to work collaboratively and collectively with all the stakeholders required, so if it's funders, if it's government, if it's ensuring that the schools are well built and they're putting the right infrastructure in place to ease the lives of this individual, not just the children, yes, but even the teachers who are being put there to teach, we would go a long way towards addressing.
All right, talk to us areas that you have been, you exist in trying to reach. Where, what society, which village or which state are you operating?
So right now we're in Ogun State, in Kaduna State, and we're about to finalize our partnership into Lagos State as well.
Wow.
So those 3 states are the states that we're working in. In Ogun State, we're in all the local government areas in Ogun State. They were the first state to sign the partnership with us. And we're working in Kaduna State, in Kaduna North and South, and also in plans to scale the program in that states too.
Ogun State is seen as one of the states with a very high rate of literacy.
Yeah.
Is it like charity beginning at home for you? Why Ogun State?
No, so it's interesting that you shared that. But then when you look at the WAEC results in the past 3 years, Ogun State has had about 18% pass rate in the entire state, right? So the reality is not what you've just shared, but then it's indeed that they also have the same learning gaps that every other state is experiencing. One of the things that I say to people that has facilitated our work in Ogun State is the willing leadership. And so when we started this work, it's important to know that we can't work in silo. We work in partnership with the existing institutions, the government, the head teachers, the schools that already exist.
All right.
And if we don't have a way to work collaboratively with them, our program wouldn't work.
So what are the plans to take this to the other states where it is said that a majority of the out-of-school children reside, basically?
So as I said, we work in public schools. And so gaining access even to the public schools requires some sort of partnership and agreement with government, with the agencies that are managing education. So if the government is not interested, if the leadership of that state is not interested, we can engage them, we can have the conversation, but we can't force it on them. So my own hope is that they will see the examples, they will see the impact, they will see the possibilities of what is happening in the different states, and then they would begin to latch onto the idea to even bring it to their own state.
So this is about, we have the interest to go into all those extreme places, but if you don't welcome us, we stay where we are.
Exactly,
Okay.
So do I just quickly mention to us the impacts, if I asked earlier on what the impact has been, 2 years or 3, like you mentioned?
So I'll just quickly share one. And I'm sharing this because I met the young boy yesterday. I saw him yesterday, an 11-year-old boy, Alao Daniel, who had an experience of having 2 Teach for Nigeria fellows teach him. We had the recent National Lafarge literacy competition, And the 2 students who came second, who won in southwestern Nigeria were students of the Teach for Nigeria Fellows.
Wow.
And both of them, you know, emerged with second place nationally, but came first in southwest Nigeria. That is one. We're seeing what is happening with confidence levels. So the immediate past chair of State Universal Basic Education Board in Ogun State said he hasn't seen such level of confidence in students in the past, you know, in the 3 years that he was chair of SUBEB as he saw in the Teach for Nigeria classrooms. We're seeing teachers who are in the system who are saying, I thought I was, you know, teaching before, but when I started to see the methodology that our own participants are infusing, I saw that I needed to do something differently. So we're seeing the impact even on school system level, where teachers are teaching differently and everyone is doing things differently because of what they're seeing.
Okay, so there is hope. There's hope on the horizon.
Absolutely.
And certainly we'll look for greater days as we get along. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Falawe. Thank you.